Bulgaria is one of the most underrated countries in Europe. It has so much to offer, including lovely beaches, churches, tasty cuisine, ski resorts, wonderful countryside, monasteries, mountains, ancient sites, and above all, very friendly people. In today's video, I'm going to give you my opinion on the 5 best places to buy real estate here for the year 2024. Unfortunately, as Bulgaria is suffering from a population decline, in particular in the countryside and smaller towns, I cannot include these places in the top 5, in particular when it comes to real estate investing. Fortunately, this is not the case in the larger cities, and despite significant house price increases over the last few years, I still believe over the medium and long term, a number of cities in Bulgaria will see further house price rises. Let's not forget, Bulgaria's economy has seen significant GDP growth over the last 20 years. And also, it has very low total government debt to GDP. And in actual fact, it's the second lowest in the European Union. And this means that it's unlikely that the government will need to raise taxes in the future. And talking about taxes, taxes are already very low in Bulgaria. The general rate of tax is only 10%. So if you rent out your property here, you'll only pay 10% rental income tax. Anyway, here are my top 5 places to buy real estate in Bulgaria for the year 2024. And please let me know if you agree or disagree with me and why in the comments below. Now, coming in at number 5 is Banso. There's no doubt that property in the ski resort of Banso is not as cheap as a couple of years ago, where it averaged just 500 euros per square meter. In fact, now you're looking at an average of around 700 to 750 euros per square meter. But in absolute terms, it's still cheap. Banso is actually by far the most popular ski resort in Bulgaria, with 18 pistes covering 75 kilometers. However, there's more to Banso than just skiing. It has plenty of bars, clubs, restaurants, an ice skating rink, a bowling alley, and horseback riding as well. And it's got a beautiful old town. Another major advantage of Banso is that in the summer, people do come here and hike. This town of 9,000 is also becoming a mecca for digital nomads. The one major disadvantage, though, is that it's a long way from an airport, namely Sofia Airport. It can actually take 2.5 hours from Sofia Airport to Banso. Nevertheless, if you consider in many Western ski resorts, property prices are often up to 15 times more expensive than Banso. This does show that Banso is still cheap. And in the next few years, we will probably not see the growth of the last 2 or 3 years, but I still expect in the medium term, average real estate prices here to reach 1,000 euros per square meter on average. So I think Banso is definitely worth considering. Now, coming in at number 4 is Burgas. Burgas is the second largest city on the Black Sea and the 4th largest in Bulgaria, with a population of around 200,000. In the last year or so, property prices have gone up by over 15% and now stand at an average of around 1,300 euros per square meter. If you'd invested 8 or so years ago, you would probably have seen an increase of your property of nearly 75%. So the days of very cheap property are over. However, I still think that Burgas has a lot to offer. It has the busiest airport on the Black Sea, with flights to a number of European destinations, plus Dubai and Tel Aviv in Israel. Although, of course, many of these flights are seasonal. There's also a mainline railway station and a bus station, and Burgas is the gateway to Sunny Beach and the beautiful Nesaba. The city itself has a nice beach, a huge marine park, plenty of places to shop, and bars, cafes, clubs, and restaurants as well. And if you want to rent out your property here, you have a choice between the Airbnb market in the summer months or long-term rentals. in the winter months. Now, remember, as I've said, rental income tax is very low at 10%. So Burgas is definitely worth considering, and I believe in the medium term, prices on average will reach €1,500 per square metre. Now, coming in at number 3 is the absolutely beautiful city of Plovdiv. With a population of just under 350,000, Plovdiv is Bulgaria's second largest city. Plovdiv is a much underrated city, but it is getting more attention, especially since 2019 when it was the European Capital of Culture. Plovdiv is actually the second oldest living city in Europe, and the old town is a candidate to become a World Heritage Site. Plovdiv is a city with good infrastructure, a growing IT industry as well, and it has 6 universities and a number of state and private colleges, and it's got branches of other universities as well. Now, if you'd invested in Plovdiv 8 years ago, you would have probably seen the value of your property nearly double. In the last year or so, property prices did less well. They increased by an average of around 8%, which is less than the other major cities in Bulgaria. So property prices now stand at around €1,300 per square metre. Again, the great thing about Plovdiv is that it's got a high student population, so you should have no problem renting out your property. I also think that as the popularity of Plovdiv increases, so will the Airbnb market. Now, transport-wise, Plovdiv has an extensive public transportation system, including nearly 30 main bus lines. It also has a major road and railway network. But the only thing that I have to say is a disadvantage is that although it's got a major international airport, flights are very, very limited. Now, coming in at number 2 is Varna. With a population of around 335,000, Varna is the third largest city in Bulgaria and the biggest on the Black Sea. Varna is actually one of my favourite cities in Europe. Varna is fairly unique in having a combination of city life, a beach, and a beautiful sea garden, which is 8 kilometres long. Now, the pedestrianised walk from opposite the ornate cathedral to the entrance of the sea garden is one of the most pleasant, if not the most pleasant, in Bulgaria. Varna has the most important museum in Bulgaria as well, namely the Archaeological Museum. It's also got a lovely opera house and ancient Roman baths. Now, although Varna is known for tourism, it's also a business city as well, with important sectors that add to its economy, such as manufacturing, shipping, banking, and also financial and insurance services as well. It also has top universities in Bulgaria, including the University of Economics, the Medical University of Varna, and the Technical University of Varna. Transport-wise, Varna has excellent road links, a railway station, 2 major bus stations, a seaport, and an international airport that flies to a number of European destinations, plus Tel Aviv in Israel. Varna is also becoming somewhat of a mecca for digital nomads because of its cafe culture and club scene, in particular on the beach. Unfortunately, prices are no longer cheap. In the last year or so, they have gone up by over 16%, which is more than double the increase of Sofia. So prices have gone up by over 16%. In Sofia, they only went up 7%. Now, in the Greek quarter, many apartments now go for over €2,000 per square metre. So prime real estate is no longer cheap here. Now, a year and a half ago, Varna would have been in the top position, but I'm afraid it's gone down to number 2. Nevertheless, I still expect prices to increase in the future. Now, coming in at number 1, as you can see, is Sofia. Now, with a population of around 1.25 million, Sofia is the capital and the largest city in Bulgaria. It is also the 14th largest city in the European Union. Sofia is a city that is really growing and is booming. There are over 100 IT companies present in the city. Now, around 25 years ago, there were no metro lines, but there are now 4 metro lines in the city. So over the last 25 years, really a real boom. And Sofia is very dominant in Bulgaria, with around 50% of foreign investment coming into this city. The city also accounts for about 40% of Bulgaria's GDP, and around 50% of the working population here have degrees, and many speak foreign languages as well. Transport-wise, the Central Railway Station is the railway hub for domestic and international rail transport. And from Sofia International Airport, you can fly to numerous destinations in Europe, plus Yerevan, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Hurghada, and Tel Aviv. Now, property prices have gone up by around 117% over the last 8 years, and this really is unsurprising given how much the city has developed. However, over the last year or so, prices have only gone up by around 7%, which is less than that of Varna, which, as I've said, has gone up by more than 16%. So, although Varna is catching up towards Sofia, I believe in the future now, Sofia is actually going to do better than Varna because, as said, it really is a hub, a transport hub in Europe. And property prices are still only around 1,800 euros per square meter on average, which for an EU capital, I think is very reasonable. And that's why I've put Sofia in the #1 place to buy real estate in Bulgaria. Now, again, please let me know if you agree or disagree. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I shall see you soon on the next video.